days, uh, and only get better every day. And I still have a lot to learn. So just think about it, taking it slower. With that said, this is the hour of Empower. If it's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we're here every day. The word of the day is distinction. The day itself is really framed around entrepreneurship. And with that said, I'm so fortunate to have Carl Dakin back again with us, along with Matt Walsh, who I know once you get to meet Matt, you're going to be impressed and find that this time, thought, and effort you put in a day was worth it. That's our goal, give you valuable takeaways. And again, chat's open, and we depend on you to make us more relevant and to provide as much value as possible. So, with that said, Carl, why don't you bring everybody a little bit up to date, and then your uh, thoughts on distinction, because that was the word you contributed. So, however this show goes, it's all on you now.
Well, I see if I can pick up the reins of responsibility here and do a good job. As Don was saying, every day is an opportunity to learn more, to get better at what you do. And I've been in the show a few times before, and I'm learning about LinkedIn Live. I see Don's program as an interesting, and I will call it state-of-the-art tool for building community. And I'm very interested in learning the tricks of the trade from the master here. I'm at his knees as a sensei. I'm looking to learn everything. And I'm going to work with Don with the goal of putting together my own show sometime in the future once I've learned enough. And that show will be centered on entrepreneurship, and in particular, will deal with issues about raising capital, which is one of my areas of expertise. And I'm looking to learn from everybody else as well, because the capital markets are in turmoil right now as a consequence of COVID and inflation and interest rates and everything else. And so that brings us to the word of the day, which is distinction. And the point there that I want to talk about and put on a table for everybody else to consider is that for a small business to succeed, it needs to stand out. It needs distinction. No matter how good your product is, no matter how great your team is, we could go through the whole list of all the things you're doing right. But if the world can't see you, can't recognize you, can't react to you because you appear visible to them and you are superior to their other choices, you're not distinct enough, then you may get passed by, or they may pick your competitor instead of your own. And so it seems to me that this is a common challenge to all small businesses on how do you make yourself visible? How do you make yourself appear superior? How do you do these things? And that's why I invited Matt Walsh with Splish Naturals to be my, I guess, sub guest as we come up with new labels and categories. Because Matt is running a small business out of Frisco, Colorado, and he can tell you more about that. But I've been working with Matt on a capital campaign where we're trying to figure out how do you make his business distinct? How does it stand out? And we came up with a program called Heal Your Hero, which is a give back to recognize heroes and help those heroes who have helped everybody else. And by taking this activity and placing it correctly in the public, with a series of good news stories, we are hopeful that Splish Naturals will become more distinct and will become a product of choice for people who are looking for things that Matt sells.
Well, that's terrific, Carl. A nice lead off. And what it does align with is really what qualifies a good guest or a host is, are they a good person first, right? Are they doing good things? And then, because the things they do can change once they learn how to do other things, or they even understand there's other things out there. And I think, to Carl's point, it's all communication. And the difference is when I started my specialty retail chain a long time ago, there were just newspapers and broadcasts, right? And that's basically how you marketed. And it was just local, not national or international. But now there's zillions of ways, and there's automated ways that even if it was 100 different ways and everybody humanly was doing it. But when you're dealing with bots and you're dealing with automation, it changes the whole dynamic. So I think the way to go is reality, real time, real people, real conversation, real in the moment things that people can believe are happening and they have an impact on. So with that, just an aside, Kelly's here. Kelly's been here for 11 months, every week, every Thursday, plus many days. And I've been on her show. She launched the Awesome Journey, which is specifically catering to people in armed services and first responders. And it was kind of interesting. We both had this one gentleman I just thought I met, and I said, "You'd be great for Kelly." And he's a major general. And Kelly is going to have him on the show next week. So it's just kind of funny how things intersect. But with that said, why don't you share Matt's story, Matt? I'm so impressed. You've done so many things in hospitality and spa work and everything else, and your product's just unbelievable. So, Matt, why don't you introduce yourself to this lovely audience and share your thought on distinction?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Don, Carl, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here, and I love the word distinction because I think we're all familiar with the movie A Field of Dreams, where the famous line is, "If you build it, they will come." In all my years of being an entrepreneur, which is many, many years, I learned that only works in the movies. And it doesn't really apply to real life. So especially when you're, just one of many, many, many fish in the sea swimming around, how do you create that distinction? How do you separate yourself from the rest of the businesses that might be in your space, the rest of the people who are pursuing maybe your customers, et cetera? So distinction is clearly an important word for any entrepreneur and any small business. And it doesn't matter if you're in a business like we are, which is a wellness industry to help support the reduction of inflammation, pain through natural means, or you run a t-shirt shop. I think it's critical for anybody that embarks on the journey of running their own business or are already in their own business to really think creatively and outside of the box, which, sorry for that cliche, but you really need to, because otherwise you're just another blue fish in a sea of blue fish. So I think it's a great word. I think it's something that's near and dear to my heart. So Carl, brilliant word for the day.
Oh, thank you. Well, I laugh about this issue because it's the entrepreneur, of which I'm one, and I'm involved with about a dozen businesses right now. Is you really have this high opinion of how good your product or service is. That's why you're doing it and you're trying to put it out there. But that doesn't mean that your opinion is even known or shared by everybody else. So you have to figure out how do I go about getting other people to have the same belief in my product or service as I do. And it gets hard when you're doing something that looks like everybody else or other people are talking over what you're doing with stuff that may not be accurate or the whole truth. And then because we're now in an internet world with potentially billions of people participating, it just gets harder. And that's why that's why I like this LinkedIn Live show, because this is a chance to have people, listen and talk and exchange information and give feedback in real time, instead of throwing something out there in a social media post and hoping that somebody sees it and hoping that somebody reacts.
That's so interesting, both what you said, Carl, and what you mentioned, Matt, because you have to really appreciate who are you communicating with. And people you'd meet through questionable ways of communicating are the same people you're going to be working with. And they'll probably be doing other things that are not, let's say, the most efficient. So what I've learned is nuances over these many days that we're not talking to potential clients or customers. We're talking to potential strategic alliances, relationships, referral networks, because everybody here has thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of connections and followers. Plus, this show live streams through LinkedIn. When it goes live, every one of my connections gets notified. Doesn't matter who shows up. Every day they see my name. Every day I do a newsletter, they email to every one of my connections that I just did a newsletter, and the idea is to get known before you're needed, right? Get your story out there, but be the one telling your own story your way and not have filters. And then people like to relate to people they relate to. And this gives everybody a chance to put their toe in the water before they even have to connect with someone. And over time, they trust people. And I think at the threshold of communication, trust is essential. You don't trust somebody, it doesn't matter what they say, it doesn't matter what they do. You're just going to know there's going to be another shoe to drop, and then why make an accommodation right up front? So my sense is that, both Carl, Matt, and so many other people are established in what they do. There's people who are trying to communicate with people and still don't know what they're going to do with them when that happens, right? It's like, okay, let's talk about it. What do you need? And it's like, why not put everything into a more time compressed, relevant status? And create what we're doing now is someone's got a show. Well, it's their show. What do you want to talk about? What do you think you're going to bring the most value to? And I think as you assign and delegate more responsibility and accountability, it becomes their show, especially with the intent of getting them off and up, into their show, because then everybody has more knowledge share at a more operational level. And the last thing I'm going to do is go towards independence and end up dependent on something else. So anyways, Dennis is here. Dennis is just a lovely gentleman here in Denver. Been in the heating and air conditioning business for 44 years, still active. Good morning and morning. He's our rhymer. Good to communicate. The real is the real deal for sure. Dennis comes back. Matt's story certainly sounds like it really matters. Distinguish and don't just stinkish. Makes common sense. Thanks for sharing and carrying your experience and knowledge. Keep us thinkers. I don't know where you picked all this stuff up, but it seems to really distinguish you. So with that said, Matt, this is new, this audience, but what do you think about having a more amplified, relevant voice going into the marketplace? And one last distinction is you're not just communicating with customers, you're, service providers, investors, partners. I mean, and almost all of them need a different tilt to it, right? Because there's some self-interest in all those parties. And as you could communicate, people can see what you're doing out there. And I think that gives everybody a competitive advantage, because when you're looking at a bunch of Me Too's, and maybe you can distinguish because of management, but it's like, what is their something special? What's their defensive foundation that's going to keep them in business and maybe make them thrive? So getting back to Matt, what do you think of a potential tool like we're starting to identify?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree. As you mentioned earlier, I've spent about 17 years in the spa industry before I embarked on this journey to get into a wellness company that helps individuals, reduce pain naturally. And, so I've had a lot of experience with therapists, with customers, with product companies, and understanding what they did to get to where they are. And then, of course, then you immediately have to think of the word distinction. Okay, that's fine. We can emulate, but we can't copy. And when we do that, we need to do something that's going to help us stand out. So, part of what we have done is we've made sure that with our product line, it was absolutely safe to use. It wasn't, a lot of our products contain CBD, which is a natural compound from the hemp plant that still has got a lot of misinformation out there on it. And a lot of people are still vague on it, and it's evolving and it's getting better. But one of the things that was very critical and mission critical to when we launched our business was 100% full transparency. We're not hiding behind fancy names. We're not hiding behind artificial ingredients. Everything we do is 100% natural. So, when we started this company, we did so, with some back end experience to how we will basically understand the marketplace, understand the individuals who would actually be using our products, whether it was a service provider or an end customer. In the spa industry, if your service providers don't believe in what you are doing, they don't believe in your product, game over. So you have to earn their trust. Without trust, we will all fail. Okay, so we have to get that trust. We have to earn it. It takes time. You don't wake up one morning and go, okay, the world trusts me today. You have to be consistent. You have to be persistent. You need to continuously believe in what you are doing. You need to be able to advance your business as we have done in different, almost like a spherical fashion where, over time it became more clear that we didn't want to be just a CBD company. We wanted to be more of a holistic wellness company that, sure, we do have products in that space, but we have a lot of other products as well, from PEMF mats and gemstone pillows and compression socks and our own customized K-tape and things like that help athletes or everyday folks recover from an active day at the gym, out on the pickleball court, or maybe just tension sitting at a desk all day. We encompass a wide variety of potential customers. And we, as we've evolved it, we realize that, part of being a holistic provider meaning also diversification. We needed to be, diverse our product offerings that pair well together and they balance each other out. But at the same time, as we look at our comp set and who are we up against, who probably have been in the business a lot longer than we have, how do you compete with the big boys, so to speak? And I think the couple things that we've done is, one, created diversification in our product offerings, our service offerings, the fact that we encompass both retail opportunities, whether it's online or within a business that retails our products, or as a professional use within a spa or physical therapy or other wellness center. And then, of course, more recently, we've all experienced the lows of COVID and then inflation and wars that are taking place, and it's certainly distracting. And so Carl and I, came up with the idea. Okay, we thought long and hard. What are we going to do to separate ourselves from everybody else? Okay, and it was kind of an evolution process. It didn't just start with Heal Your Heroes. It started out with, first responders and the law enforcement. And we did our research. We investigated, okay, is this something we can do? Can law enforcement officers accept gifts if they're gifted them? Will they use a product that does contain CBD, even though there's no THC, or at least no measurable amount of THC? And that became a challenge. So that then opened up the mind to really think even bigger. And that is when we came up with the hero, because a hero could be anybody. It could be your grandmother. It could be the kid next door that picks up the newspaper for you every morning. It could be, it could be anybody. It could be a first responder. It could be a veteran. It could be, anybody out there. And so, we really kind of took a deep dive into this and really wholeheartedly believed in what we were doing because it's different.
Well, how are your first reactions to what you're doing? What are you learning from the Hero program?
So the reactions I'm getting, either from customers, friends, family, people on social media, I've gotten 100% positive response from this. That it really, it's almost a program that endears people because we all have somebody we'd like to recognize. And as Carl mentioned earlier, if you think about this, you turn on any news channel, I don't care. There's nothing but bad news out there, right? And I think this Heal Your Hero and trying to generate positive news stories, and we're not talking one or two, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of positive news stories about everyday heroes, people that weren't even expecting to be recognized, but were so for the small deeds they've done. You don't have to have superpower strength and flip a car over, to save somebody. No, you can maybe it's just somebody that shows up to work every day and doesn't complain. And it's important to us.
Yeah, and I bet, and it sounds important, and I think it can have a lot of huge value to a lot of people. But, it's, in one way, niches are riches. And by being expansive, naturally, you're more inclusive and accessible. But, how do you compress going forward and then identify what something is for what something is? Is it a marketing opportunity as well as a opportunity to help others? And I think that's where distillation is so important. And that's why taking, and the nice thing about having a show every day, nobody has to get a lot out of it to make it worth that day. Because come back tomorrow, get another tidbit or get the company, So in other words, if you can serve so many different needs at the same time, you're becoming more relevant. If you can talk to more people in a planned time with a planned subject and people are somewhat prepared, you're going to get a lot more out of it. So it looks like it's obvious both what you and Carl are doing has a market and a magnitude way bigger than what you are and what you can do by yourselves, right?
Yeah, that's been kind of the I'll call it internal reflection, borrowing a term from another day on your program, Don. That when we designed this, as Matt was describing, we'd been giving product away to some first responders, and we were basically just capping out on how much we could afford to give away. And so as we were planning the current capital campaign, which is a national Reg CF capital campaign, we thought about, well, what if we could get our investors to essentially partner with us, and through their investment, they can give a gift to a hero of their choice. And so we're trying to give value to the investor while also expanding our ability to help people like first responders who quite often were injured in the course of their work. And that was all coming together. And then along the way, we realized that telling a story about a hero has an impact far beyond the individual gift. That for the person making the recognition of the hero, that is inspirational to them because they get to help somebody they know, that they appreciate, who they respect, and all the things that is in their definition of hero. But when you share that story with the public, then it becomes a good news story. And as a good news story, it's telling the world it's not all bad out there. There are some people out there, in your backyard, down the street, who are all doing good things for other people. And that just gives you a sense of hope and a feeling that, we will survive and thrive whatever problems, the world's going to throw at us.
Well, I think everything we're talking about is getting to be pretty well understood out there. That news is more to get you excited than to get you educated, right? And people love tragedy. Why do people go to NASCAR? If there was never a crash, you wouldn't see anybody go in there. They're there for a boxing match. Someone's going to get knocked out most of the time. And it's the same thing, but people are smarter, much smarter today. And those people are peer-to-peer now. They're creating their own communities. They're creating their own individual news that applies to each other. But, since I've been doing this show for a year and a half straight, every time I hear something, I frame it in a live stream. And your Heroes program would be a great live stream because you'd have unlimited guests based on people that got the benefit from the product, people got the benefit from the Heroes program, you know, and Harvey. I always mention Harvey. Harvey Tuck was in the audience 6 months ago, maybe. Never, and he's from London. He's a franchiser out there. And I just noticed people in the audience. That's why everybody in the audience I eventually have a call with, and Dennis has been on the show. And anyways, make a long story short, if possible, Harvey took over every other Friday, every other Sunday. And half the time he was between London and home. He had to pull over the highway and do the show for an hour in his car. And he always got there. But make a long story short, 2 months ago, he decided to launch his own show, the franchise show. Within 8 weeks of taking the best practices and experience here, he went to #1 franchise event on LinkedIn out of 80 of them that appear. And he's booked up for 8 months now. And he's now identified as an authority on franchising. So the people he's getting are the person in charge of North American people you would never get to know, who would never even maybe want to get to know you unless there was a mutual benefit. And that's what I see is replicating what's already happening. So when anybody says, I have this, well, you already have what you need. The issue is nobody knows where it is and how it is. And by the time they figure it out, that's 20 years gone by. And also in this transparent virtual world, whatever you come up with, tomorrow someone's thinking of coming up with. So the opportunity could be huge, but the copycats will show up. And a lot of people, it doesn't take long to figure it out, right? Because the demand is so great. And also, and this is fresh eyes, fresh ears sharing. And I think maybe that's a benefit of the program. It's almost like Shark Tank in a way, is someone can look at something and say, well, first movers, people who, because Harvey created the show. That's all that was necessary, right? Someone can create an opportunity because there's so many people in pain. There's so many people in distress. And most of the time, it's just conventional stuff. And a lot of times that works, but if people knew there was an alternative, or when things weren't working and nothing's working, then there's more people who are interested in, hey, what do I got to lose, especially if it's safe, and a good cause connected to a good product, benefits each other by association. So I think if you could ask yourself, who am I waiting to talk to? And who am I waiting to call me? Well, why not flip the switch and just get on the air and start talking? That's why I tell everybody, if you're out of work and you're sitting at home, start a live show at 9 a.m. like you went to work, take a break for lunch, get back, broadcast 7 hours a day, right? It costs you nothing. I mean, for $25, you can hook up the Restream, and that's the whole cost. And eventually someone will give you a job just because you're out there consistent, working it, and adding value. So I think in the days of waiting for something are over. When that happens, it's going to happen when it happens. Why not create it? And you'll find out what you created was better than what you're waiting for. And if it's so hard to get it, what happens when you lose it? You're going to go back into the crowd again. So I think there's a better way. Carl, it looks like you want to say 3 different things, and I haven't given you the microphone yet.
I'm not known for being shy about talking, so I'll jump in here. But the word we picked for today, distinction, was because, as I stated earlier, it's just hard for a small business to make itself appear different, and difference is somehow necessary for recognition, because give a shout out to one of my favorite comic book strips called Gaping Void. It's a free subscription service on entrepreneurs and innovation. And they had a cartoon recently where a guy is holding up a particle of sand. It says, "What a beautiful, shiny, golden, grain of sand you are. It's unfortunate that you're on a large beach on a large ocean." The point that was the one we're trying to make today is that you've got to do something that people can identify you with. Otherwise, they joke about the Energizer Bunny, that most people don't remember which battery company that's associated with. And you work so hard to get that distinction, and it's very important to get there. So we're very hopeful, very optimistic that the Heal Your Hero program, which is calling attention to all the good deeds of all the good people out there, that this will be something that they'll associate with Splish Naturals, and they'll start thinking that, yeah, there's a natural connection, particularly if you get injured. Splish can help you out, heal you, but there are already lots and lots of programs, foundations, and out there that are working with veterans, working with police who are injured in the line of duty. But there isn't a foundation for the everyday hero yet that we've found. The person who's doing the soup kitchen down the street every day to help out the homeless, or the volunteer who's putting in time to help build jobs in their local backyard. And so we decided, when we used the definition of a hero, we wanted to let it be in the eye of the beholder. If you think somebody's a hero, then let's recognize and let's give them a call out. Let's tell everybody what a good job they did. And oh, by the way, if we can help, let us know about that.
I think too, if we, circle back to the word distinction, we talk about the mechanics of what we're doing. Obviously brilliant ideas are a dime a dozen, to be able to fulfill that idea and see it through to fruition, obviously takes time, money, patience, persistence, consistency, etc. So when we embarked on this journey to tie crowdfunding and Heal Your Hero, we were actually breaking the mold. Typical crowdfunding programs are a stock play. You put up money, you get stock, you stick the certificate in your underwear drawer, you hope someday that it grows into something. With the program that we're doing, we're creating value for the investor by gifting them, product for themselves, plus recognizing the hero of their choice on their behalf, plus ongoing discounts for future purchases. But we're creating this an energy here. Now, from, as I said, the mechanics, you go to different platforms and they go, "Oh, we can't do that. Oh, we can't do that. We don't do it that way. That's not the way it's done." And of course, to stand out from all the rest of those blue fish out there, we persisted till we finally found a platform that would accommodate what we want to do, how we want to do it, why we wanted to do it. And so, and that wasn't without its challenges. But once we landed on it, okay, we can check that box. That's great. But now let's talk about the do good aspect. It's like trying to do good while, I'm a big fan of things being mutually beneficial, and I think we would all agree that if you're the one that's giving, and without ever receiving, sometimes that doesn't last very long, So I think when we launched this program, it creating a mutually beneficial opportunity for anybody that chooses to invest. The value of what they get is actually, beyond stock, is more than the actual value of the stock itself. And so, it becomes a win-win. When we launched this program on October 13th, Friday the 13th, our PR firm sent a press release out. Within about an hour and a half, my emails lighting up from our PR firm indicating that, wow, they had over 280 media outlets pick our story up, and picked it up within 90 minutes of time. They said, wow, we've never had a press release go out that was picked up so quickly by so many. And it may just be attributed to the sign of the times, which really feeds into exactly what we are trying to do by creating positive news stories. I think that with all the yuck out there, talking about healing a hero resonated, and they did not hesitate to pick up this news story in all these different news wires. Not long ago, Success Magazine published an article on Splish, and they really tied what we are doing as to the opioid crisis from the standpoint that their researchers dug deep and came up with all the data on the opioid crisis, but then acknowledged that not a company like ours, our exact company, is moving the needle towards a more natural, holistic, safe, non-addicting means to reduce pain, inflammation, bruising, swelling, etc. And of course, it was a very proud moment that a magazine like this, picked this up and covered us in such a way. But it's about building that trust. It's about being transparent. And if you were to Google us, there's a lot of press out there, and it's all good press, but it didn't happen overnight. Nothing. And of course, I think as an entrepreneur, we all know there's no such thing as a straight line. So you have to be willing to shift gears. And when you need to go left, you go left. When you need to go right, you go right. But you don't lose your focus on what your end game is. And sometimes the games are shorter than most. Sometimes it's a long game, and there are things that are going on in the world right now, locally and, domestically and internationally, that none of us have any control over, so you need to be able to adapt what's happening to where you want to go and how you're going to get there.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think, the time and space between situations are getting smaller, right? More farm to table, manufacturer to end user, getting rid of the middle people, getting there just in time, being able to be reactive and responsive. And, things like fixed overhead doesn't make sense. Anything that's fixed in a dynamic situation becomes a legacy that you drag forward or have to compensate for. So when it comes down to it, it's who's known in the best way possible that will distinguish the players from the has-beens or almost rans or just the mediocre. And I think it's the consistency of having control in an mostly uncontrollable world on message, on when I know this is going to be going out because I'm the one taking it there. And every media source has a self-interest. It may have a mutual benefit, but you can't control how with the lens they put you through. Ask any movie star, ask any politician, right? They can give an interview and they find out that ain't what I said, or the stuff I really wanted people to hear ain't in it, and then it's too late. So I think by taking control over the things you can control, not even considering things you can't control, because that'll affect your mindset. You watch enough bad news to start your day and you're going to be flat. And if nothing, angry, disappointed, and I think, you have an obligation when it's showtime to be showable, right? And I think when people make it more about it than them, and I've always been a fan of making it better before I made it bigger, measure twice, cut once, and then blow out of the gate once you know that you've got what it takes. You can't look back. And I think that's the difference is, you got to be, it's like NASCAR. You got to know when to draft off of somebody else and when you got to take to the outside and make your move. But, what it really comes down to is strategy. Because you only have so much time, you only have so much effort, and you never know what you could have done, right? You might have made 30% return. Well, could you have made 50? Not the way I figured things out or the way I planned it, but sure. And I think that's the key is who's pushing you harder to get better. and it's yourself. You know, the game is between you and yourself, and you decide, hey, that's what this show does for me. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what anybody else is going to say, but I come up with stuff I would have never come up with on my own. And once it's out there, you know, it's a gem that will be seen. Everything we're talking about today will be seen for 20, 30 years. My point is, this is simulcasting live on YouTube right now. So if you got 1 billion people on LinkedIn, and it will simulcast on 30 channels at the same time. So you could be on Twitter, you can be on Twitch, you can be on whatever you want.
Mhm.
And what that says is the options are unlimited, but what is your ability to manage them? People
Well,
get Carl?
yeah, and to that, Don, the word of the day is distinction. The next word we pick is going to be presence, or something along that line. I often joke with some of my clients when we're raising capital. I said, you need to make your pitch be a big, brilliant billboard, but I need that billboard right next to an interstate highway. I don't want it off in the rural community. I want 100,000 cars going past the billboard each day, not 5 people in a pickup truck going down to the local granary or something. And so we've got to work hard on one hand to be distinctive, to make ourselves unique and stand out from everybody else. But then on a program like this is the communication channel. This is how we get the word out about being distinctive to everyone who's listening on all the different channels that you identified. And at that point, we have a third word we'll have to talk about in the future, which is efficiency. Because in an hour, you're getting the word out on your program to people all over the world in so many different places, where we could be sitting at home writing up a paper or writing an email to go to one person and having one touch, one impact within that communication channel. Where here we're getting potentially millions, or I think you're up to billions of viewers. Is that right, Don, at the current time?
But the market is enormous, and who else is going to stay in the game long enough to learn how to play the game well enough? And you know, the idea is how do you get multiple benefits? Just like, you know, if you want to get real wealthy, have multiple streams of income, especially if they're residual. The content we're providing, and we're not at that point, but it's in the plan, is to create 60-second shorts out of people's appearances here, right? If you had 3 good 15-second clips that you could have never produced, right? Because it had to be in the moment, it had to be spontaneous, it had to be with the energy. Because the problem with organic video, and it's LinkedIn comes out with the numbers, live streams get 24 times the comments as organic video, which is 5 times the comments as text post. Well, if you're going to do a video, you're going to produce it, you're going to write it, you're going to orchestrate it, and the worst thing is you're going to edit it, because you can, and everybody knows you can. So when you slip up, if you leave it either lazy or you weren't aware and you left it in, well, on live stream, it's too late. You know, there's no homework after it's done. There's no preparation. And in a way, it had to be this way for me to do this every day, because I would have added another half hour or 45 minutes of tedium. I would have lost interest. So sometimes necessity is the mother of innovation or invention. But what I see here is when people can say, there's a huge audience that needs to hear this. There's very few people projecting this in the way that I can project it, which is health, well-being, you know, positive news or information, you know, and you bring it together in a continuous program. And the idea is, as long as in time you don't have to be the program, right? All you do is bring people together who can support the topic you're in, right? So whether they're heroes or whether they're people who gain benefit from the product. And then when you talk, it's like, hey, what would you do for an hour if 50 to 100 people will show up every day just to hear whatever you have to say and answer their questions? Because if I wouldn't have done these shows over a year and a half, I'd have been doing something else. It was the same day, it was the same time. didn't take me more. It just took a better redirection. And here's the thing. If you do it with someone who can show you same day results, right? If you invested today and that's what happens, buy a stock, you get same day results. You get to choose whether you want to keep it another day or buy more. LinkedIn's the same way. You do whatever you do, you see your numbers. And once you see your numbers, you let those guide you. And what you find is repurposing is a rare talent. Running the same post every day of the week is better than running it one day and not having a post for 5 days. Right? Because, anyways, we get too technical. Matt, I know you've got so much to offer in addition to, Carl, one last thing?
No, I just agreed with your comment about doing clips out of the content for those people who can't sit still for an hour because they drank too much coffee or they're just wired differently. It is good to go back to the recording and find that one, maybe two moments of excellence where you said something smarter than you really are, and clip that out as a video and put that into some of your other social media along the way. It gives you basically multiple benefits from the same effort.
Well, that's true. I'll turn right over to Matt. And here's what you can do. When you pair your channels to this broadcast, like I mentioned, it broadcast on your profile. It also gives you the opportunity, once it's on your profile, it posts for you. In that post, you have the video, right? Maybe it's an hour. LinkedIn allows you to compress any parts of it. So if you said, hey, I want these 2 minutes, you just come in for the 22 here and the 32, and that's your video, right? So some of this can be self-produced. Matt?
Well, this is why I'm not saying anything that angers Carl, because I don't want him to reach through the screen and smack me, because otherwise I'm afraid that'll be my 15 seconds of fame played over and over and over again.
Well, it shows you the possibilities.
I mean, there's a bazillion books out there that, kind of going back to something you said earlier, Don, it used to be easy. You ran an advertisement in the Yellow Pages. Maybe you took out an advertisement in the local newspaper. These are both publications that people don't print, pick up anymore, and of course now you've got LinkedIn, and you've got the X, and you've got Facebook, and you've got Instagram, and you've got, newswires, and you've got so many different ways, and it's like kind of an OMG moment. It's like, wow, like, where do you begin? Where do you start? And then of course, as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you got to go back to, okay, let's go back to who is my target audience? Who are we trying to reach? Who are we trying to sell to? Who are we trying to help? Who are we trying to recognize? Years ago, about 3.5 years ago, I had, the good fortune of somebody saying, hey, Matt, would you should sponsor pickleball. It's a fast growing sport. And this was in the early days of COVID. And I'm like going, wow, pickleball. Okay. I can't say this brilliant idea was mine, but I will say, thank God I said yes. Because the sport, of course, has grown, and I'm not plugging pickleball, but from a demographic, an isolated demographic that we can speak to, at all age groups from 9 to 99, and so, through hook or crook or just good fortune or just plain good luck, we got involved with this sport early on, not early on, the sport started in 1965, but as the boom started growing logarithmically. And again, we started talking about distinction. This was another thing that set us apart from all those other blue fish, was that we are now deeply involved in a sport that is rapidly growing, covers a broad demographic, and actually, worked out very, very well for us, and continues to do so. So again, when we circle back to the word distinction and trying to separate ourselves from everybody else, yes, we have a crop product that is highly functional. It's safe to use. Those that use it, love it, appreciate it. Launching the Heal Your Hero is probably one of the things that we're most proud of, because it's not just about us, and the minute you can step into more of those charitable shoes, And I'm not saying this is necessary charity, because people are certainly putting up money to invest into our company to help fund our growth trajectory. But I sleep at night because I know that we've done good by providing value beyond simply a stock play. And I think that there's no time better than now. I mean, there's every time is a good time to recognize a hero, but I think the general public, the world is hungry right now for something that's got a positive note to it, something that is helping others, something that is meaningful, and it's not just about me, it's not just about Carl, it's not just about our company. In fact, I would lean more towards it's more about those people that we are recognizing. And of course, none of this could happen if all of a sudden, if we had a product that didn't stand on its own two legs. So it's been part of this whole process. It just didn't wake up one day and say, hey, yeah, let's slap together some product and let's put a hero brand on it and let's just run with it. The truth of the matter is we care deeply. And even when we're at tournaments, we sponsor a lot of tournaments. We care deeply about the people that we are selling product to or are trying our product, because it's like shampoo. If I sold you a bottle of shampoo and it didn't wash your hair, would you buy that shampoo again? Not no, but heck no. So when you're in this space that we're in, the product has to function. It has to work. If it doesn't, game over. And fortunately for us, over the years, we've evolved into a high quality product that has a high degree of efficacy. And of course, we rely on Mother Nature to produce the ingredients for every product we produce.
No, I think you got a very compelling story. And I think it's really, how do you craft the messaging to balance and integrate the elements to it, because they all have similar, let's say, audiences, but specific to that audience too. So, whether it's the pickleball people, whether it's the heroes, whether it's the people who are just interested in the benefit the product brings, or investors. And, the nice thing is, if you have enough room, you can do things in an incremental way and build on success versus, hit it hard and hope something happens and then try to do it again. And the other thing is when you can make your partners, whether they're customers or investors or service providers, part of your story and include them in helping tell their part of that story, because what you want to build is third-party validation. Anybody can toot their own horn, and they should, and they can, but it's always easier when someone says, let me tell Carl's story instead of Carl telling his story. Or, hey, you could even have a contest. Come on our show, be the biggest contributor, be something. And we'll recognize and honor you and give you your voice for what you have, because if people are into causes, they're usually into multiple causes or have experience in them, right? So now they get a chance to say, well, here's who I am. All you're doing is sharing a microphone, giving people a stage that you have the opportunity to be the chooser instead of having to qualify or wait in line. I mean, someone says I can do an interview with you in September. Well, that's 10 months from now. Who knows where I'll be, what I'll be thinking, and where you will be. And I think it's really like, hey, make it when you can make it. I always a believer in wherever you are with whatever you got, go to work with it. That's what you're working with. So, Carl, we're coming up on 54 minutes. It goes so quickly. What's your thoughts on this show, and last thoughts on Distinction?
Yeah, I think there's the Kevin Bacon story that you can talk to anybody in the world through 6 Degrees of Freedom. And one of the things a show like this offers is as we talked about earlier, is you're cutting out the middle people. You have the chance to talk to somebody who's listening to this show, and then they can share it with everybody they know. They can go, hey, I was listening to Don's show this morning. They had 2 very handsome guest on the show, and they were talking about helping heroes and so forth. But the hero story is something that can resonate. They can go tell that story over and over and over again today and feel good because they're sharing a good news story. And so through this program and by building the community around the program, we have the opportunity to get through more gatekeepers or more people who can pass on the story to someone else. And we're becoming more efficient by taking this approach. So it's as I said when we started, I'm learning as much as I can, as quick as I can, and you've got so much more that I wish to learn about. But I just see this LinkedIn Live show as I'll call it the best of breed, best possible choice today to get out there and build those relationships in a credible fashion where people can know you and trust you to be who you are.
Well, you know, and with that said, I've learned it's also a great polishing wheel to lean into, because if you want to try things out or get some consensus out there, it's easy to share with the audience and then get feedback, just like we're doing with the collaboration group. Is how much knowledge share can you get? Because I trust everybody to trust themselves to do the best thing for themselves. So when they can take what they have and see another dimension, another nuance, another way, and it's really an either and, it's not an either or. Whatever's working, whatever you're doing, that's a foundation to whatever you want to complement it. But eventually, if you find easier, faster, better ways of getting your message out with very little risk, I mean, the only risk is time. But, you know, if you can all of a sudden find 1 or 2 relationships a month, how many would you need to build on? And I see strategic partners coming in, sponsors coming in, right? And all of a sudden you start getting different affiliations at different levels with different players who you wouldn't have got the other way. So it's not all one size fits all. And I think over time people see it, but more importantly, they feel it. They do things, and all of a sudden things are popping that never popped like that before, where you're developing a pull strategy versus, you know, a push strategy. And it's your message that attracts the people who want to be with you because of you and your message. So, Matt, you got last swing at the plate. What's your thoughts of the show today, and your final thoughts on distinction?
So first of all, I love this format. You know, I've been a guest speaker at a lot of, you know, big shows around the country, Chicago, Las Vegas around. And I remember the first show I ever did was at McCormick Place. And I talked, I don't know, in front of about 1,000 people. Needless to say, yes, I was incredibly nervous. I rehearsed over and over and over again what I was going to say. Needless to say, I got to the stage and I couldn't remember a dang thing. You know, it's like a piano recital and forgot my music. You know, but I learned what worked for me, you know, is more of this format, speaking, you know, live. You know, I can't fix it. I can't take it back. I can't retract it. So of course you got to be thoughtful. Yes, you have to have some guidance, but no preparation. I haven't been prepping for this since our first conversation last week, you know, and so for me, I love this. I love this format. It works for me. You know, and I think circling back to, you know, what we do, granted, yes, we are a business must, you know, make money, you know, yes, we want to be able to operate at a profit, but at the end of the day, if we're not helping people, then we're wasting our time, you know, and I think we extend that phrase, not just through our hero program, which is, you know, a really big glowing nugget, but just through how we represent our company, how we develop our products, how we talk about our products, our knowledge base, and how our products can help. Like I said, if we're not helping people, then, you know, I could go make money doing anything else I want without all the caveats, challenges, stresses of being an entrepreneur to launch a company, especially during challenging times. But truthfully, I'm in my happy place. I love what we do. I believe 110% in what we do. And I love the fact that you invited me to be a part of this LinkedIn streaming. And I thank you. It's been fantastic.
Well, it's been my honor, and I believe you're an excellent guest host along with Carl. And, you know, I think what everybody really wants to be seen as is being authentic and being just a regular person,
Mhm.
right? And I think when you can meet people where they're at versus tell people to come to where you are, things start to change, you know? So when you're a person of service and respectful, I think that's what's lacking most in every part of every part is respect, is civility, is the ability to talk in more hushed tones, because people are like plugged into an outlet. You know, they're frazzled, you know, and how do they get back to their natural state? And I think that's what shows like this, because it's really about being with people who care about you, who will support you. You know, we talk about, you know, they say network is net worth. You know what I mean? So if you're plugged in and you have people that really care and are there to support you, you know, like I said yesterday, when my mother came to live with us in her final years, I told her the first thing I said, here's how it's going to work, Ma. You spend all your money and then start spending mine, right? And that way you'll always have something. But it's the same thing with other people. Is the giver is the one who gets more reactions, more responses, and in a sense, the benefit is they're getting taught what works and what doesn't. And I think that builds more confidence along with confidence. So, anyways, want to thank everybody for being here. I know there's comments that aren't showing up because I see them on the post. So I've been having between LinkedIn, but anyways, it's a learning experience. With that said, thank you again, Carl. Thank you, Matt. Come back
Thank
in
you.
3 hours. I'll tell you tomorrow who's going to be here. It's Kelly. And then Friday, we've got Jeffrey Lackey and a new gentleman, John Spence, who's just an amazing speaker. We've got Leslie and myself on Saturday, and Sarah from Spain is here every other Sunday. So it's going to be a great week coming up. Thank you again.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you,
Thanks,
Matt.
Don.